Hi there, LinkedIn family. Jonathan here from Some Talented People. And today it's episode 2 of our series on body and mind and how it actually can produce peak performance from practically anybody. Today we're going to actually get into the subject in total and give you a scope essentially for you to work within. And we're looking for contributions and obviously comments below our posts. Thanks very much. Let's turn to Scott.
Okay, well, if we're talking about peak performance, body and mind, how to achieve high levels of performance with both body and mind, there are many ways to look at this, and I like to use metaphors. One of them that I use is the horse and rider. I remember attending a World Cup dressage event in Nebraska not too long ago, and I was amazed at the connection that the rider and the horse had in order to achieve world-class performances. And if we look at the rider as being the mind and the horse as being the body, there was a connection. We talk about mind and body because they're kind of separate, but they're also intertwined in the body. When I was watching these World Cup events and the world-class riders and horses, I saw the connection between the two. And it's when a person can optimize the connection between mind and body, they have the best chance on achieving that state.
So the metaphor is good. So thinking as it from a person point of view, you and I and Denise, we have the ability to conceive of things outside of our lived experience. So we can say, yeah, we're going to approach this aspect. How can someone separate mind and body so they can work on them?
Let's use an example of sitting. Sitting is a big issue for a lot of people, especially now. There are techniques for sitting that are better and ones that are worse. Most people, unless they're specifically trained or have an exact idea on the best techniques, the default is to use poor techniques.
Right.
And so when I talk with somebody and I go through the techniques on how to optimize the seated position, actually make it a healthier one, they take it in through their mind and then they have to express it through their bodies in order for it to be a successful habit change. So if we go through that process, if someone has an optimized mind and body, they can make that transition into a better habit. And I actually consider a habit to be a helpful or harmful automatic behavior increasing over time.
Okay.
So if we examine our habits and we can learn to optimize them, then we have a better shot at achieving a higher level of well-being.
Makes sense to me. Denise, you're obviously we spoke briefly beforehand, but your entire professional career has been getting peak performance. How is it that you go about that?
Yeah, I think for me, certainly how I used to go about it, like one time I realized that no matter how much I tried to apply techniques to calm my mind, in the heat of the moment, it just didn't work. And then I realized, and I came across an understanding, which we'll talk about in this series, called the 3 principles behind the human experience. And what it helped me to do is that I had an insight, I had an epiphany, and for the very first time, I considered that I didn't really need to take my thinking so seriously. So for me, the effect of that is that my mind, when I wake up to that, quietens down by itself. And with a quieter mind, then I have more access to the innate health and wisdom and resourcefulness that we all have as human beings. So it's a slightly different approach, but kind of all looking in the same direction, which is really improving the quality of our thinking such that our bodies and minds work more effectively.
That's very interesting. So, Scott, looking at that issue, obviously you're from a chiropractic perspective, but what I find interesting is that, so I like to show this, that is my phone. It's the sort where you have to press the key 3 times to get the letter up. And the reason I do that is so that I'm not chased around the world by emails and blurps and chirps and adverts and all the rest of it. Because I understand. So what Denise says about quietening the mind, I do that deliberately for that exact purpose. How can normal people begin to get that quiet, Denise or Scott?
Well, I'll take the first shot at it, Denise, and that is breathing has enormous effect on the body.
Okay.
Breathing is something that people can consciously have an element of control over. So when a person is stressed, if they recognize what their breathing is when they're stressed, often it's individual, but often it is shallow breathing. And so we just take shallow breathing. So if I'm stressed, I know I become a shallow breather. So I can prompt myself through messages or other ways of being reminded to pause, take deep, slow breaths in. That can change the cadence of what my body's doing and help me connect with what I want to accomplish in my mind. And that's the way we can use both mind and mind to accomplish a quieting. That's one example.
Do you typically use electronic or paper notes or prompts?
I use paper.
Paper, so little sticky notes or something like that.
Yeah, that's why I like your phone. I still have they're perfect.
Oh, hold on, Denise, what are you showing us?
I love it.
The Post-its.
Yes.
Old school. Must be an age thing.
Could be. So tell me about how you first get people in touch with this quietness.
I think the first thing for me is to notice the intelligent systems behind life that we're part of. And when we feel that in the sense that we're part of something much greater than ourselves, you know what, it's not so scary anymore. Because if the person feels that they've got to do it all and that they've got to come up with the ideas in order to feel better, and they've got to come up with a way of life which is more productive, you know what, it's scary. And what I do is I point people to, it's okay. One, you have innate health in you. And so what I help people to do is to just notice all of the intelligent systems that we don't really consider, like gravity or days turning to nights, or our digestive system that happens in our bodies. We're not making our breakfast go down, it's doing it by itself.
Yeah.
So many things that are happening by themselves, yet as individuals, we tend to think we're doing it. And of course, if it doesn't happen the way we want it, then we have to go out there in order to change it. And that can be really frightening, and it can make a lot of people feel really insecure. So that's my first step, is to actually explore and examine, what are we, and who are we? How does it work? Scientific and practical way.
So it's an advanced form of mindfulness to actually pay attention in that way. Interesting times. So from my perspective, I think that the best thing I can add is, so I've had various medical experiences in life. I'm semi-paralyzed, and for me, I actually have a number of strokes, and rebuilding my consciousness from stroke allowed me to observe my thinking. And I was in a wheelchair for quite a period of time, and I had to learn to walk again and talk again and stuff like that. And what I found is that the practice of having to deliberately create movement allowed the connection between body and mind to be, I think, more obvious than it would be to normal people. Okay, so hopefully that gave you an idea of the scope of the body and mind as a single entity, and we will be back tomorrow looking at how COVID has impacted on our ability to modulate both our body and mind. So I'll see you then. Have a great day, and be good. Cheers.